Hi, I am Orwa Nyrabia, the Artistic Director of the International Documentary Film Festival, Amsterdam. I'm here today to chat with Jessica Beshir, the director of FAYA DAYI, one of the most successful, most special films of the year that is on the Oscars shortlist, but is everywhere around the world today and over the past year or so. Garnering awards, winning, drawing attention, getting amazing critical response. To me, why this matters so much is in the following. It is because we speak so much about diversity. And when we speak about diversity, we are constantly focused on the way that the filmmaker or the person looks, or the language that they speak, or the accent with which they speak English. We rarely see or keep an eye on the fact that diversity is also about artistic expression, that cinema itself is a diverse art, and that in a way, if we are open to people being diverse, we have to be open to the fact that they make diverse cinema, that their way of making films and their artistic expression is unique, is different. It is a very beautiful surprise. It's a wonderful thing that this particular film, FAYA DAYI, is part of the shortlist for the Oscars this year. It is a list of wonderful films, but this one is the different one. And I find that to be very precious, that we have a film that looks, feels, sounds differently. It lives, it exists on its own as a different creature. Being prepared and welcoming of a different kind of a film is the real openness that we have been dreaming of, fighting for, discussing, debating, but usually are forgetting to keep in mind when it comes to art, and not only to skin or to voice or accents. Jessica, welcome. And I'm so happy to meet you in person. I've seen your films, I've seen your work. We never spoke, so it's a great pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and for such a beautiful introduction. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
I want to go in right away because this film is truly an inspiration. It's been described as, I don't know, hypnotizing, dreamlike. I don't know. It has it makes good use of the Sufi or the mystic tradition of people of Harar region in Ethiopia, using this kind of semi-hallucinating leaves of cat. And I think somebody wrote about the film being itself kind of going with the flow of someone in a high. And I think that's a very interesting way to look at how you might have constructed this film. Because in many ways, there are so many different ways that you could have made this film. It doesn't carry a traditional trajectory or a storyline that is developing on its own so that you follow it chronologically. Can I begin just by asking you about the editing of this film? You brought all of these beautifully shot material, and I'm going to talk about your camera work with you in a bit. But first, you arrive back to New York, where you're based, with all of this footage. And you look at them, and I can imagine that they can be constructed or, built, composed in so many different ways. What was the guiding light for you? What was your North Star? How did you find the path, of what comes before what comes after what, and how does this film stand as an architecture on its own?
Well, thank you for that question. Well, for me, one of the things that was very important, even as I was shooting the film, and as I even edited the first short film that I made, was truly the form. How I was going to, express what we were experiencing. how authentic, can that be? How can it really reflect, and not just the narrative scope of things, but how can it reflect philosophical undercurrents? How can it reflect of the a sensation? How can it reflect what we are experiencing there? And also, like you said, I wanted this to be a creature of its own, something very, very specific and particular to that place, that could come out of that specific place, and idiosyncrasy and mythology and histories, something that is reflective of that way of life.
I think that shows there is a certain love that one experiences through your film, love from you to these people, to this region, to this culture. Is it your personal culture? Is Harar part of who you are personally, or is it that you are half Ethiopian but not from Harar?
I grew up in Harar.
Okay.
And the people that populate the film are the Oromo and the Harari, who are the people who inhabit in Harar. I want to say that in Ethiopia we have over 80 ethnic groups, culture groups, language groups, even religious groups that cannot really fit into one. So the place that I'm coming from, where I grew up in Harar, we have the Oromo predominantly, the Harari, the Amara, and the Somali that coexist. And in the film, I'm speaking of the Oromo, especially the Oromo farmer, as well as the dwellers, the Harari dwellers of the walled city. So I don't speak neither of these two languages because I grew up in Harar, and in school, you're taught in Amharic because that is the official language. So but most of my friends were Oromo and Harari. Those are the friends that I go back to, and the families that I go back to. So, yeah.
I'm curious to jump to the very beginning of how you made this film. How did you begin, Jessica? Did you begin on paper, or did you begin with a camera? How did it start?
I began with a camera. I went back after a long period of not being in Ethiopia. I left as a teenager. And the first time I went back, I took a very small, DV cam to record my grandmother, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. So, and going back to Harar and meeting some of my friends, my family members. That's how I started to see through the camera the people that I miss so much. So. But I did not know that I was going to make a film, and it wasn't that. It was after several times that I went back and started to realize that it really started to hit me, the fact that the commodification of the plant, which we grew up with. This is not a revelation by any means. That the plant has been around for centuries, if you may, and the use of it has morphed, throughout time. There was a time when it was used by Sufi imams, to attain, spiritual transcendence, mostly. And then, it became of casual use by the city dwellers, and now it has become a cash crop. So it was really fascinating to me to see how this plant had evolved When I say this is not something completely new, I mean that every time my grandmother came to visit us, she would have her chat session, with her friends. I mean, these are rituals, that are ingrained in the culture in a way. But something very specific was happening. It was just not just noticing about, the economic activity around it, but also how it was affecting, friends, how it was affecting family, how it was tugging on the social fabric on people. And so I decided to start by spending time with the farmers.
Your camera work here is, first, it's exquisite, it's beautiful, but it takes me it leads me to ask you about the act of design, of staging. There are many kind of impressionistic moments in the film that seem to be very much designed, not just observed out of the randomness of a day, but more like imagined and planned for by you as an artist. How do you think about this point? Of course, it's a very old discussion in the documentary film history. How do you personally see the point of staging or design?
Well, I have to say that when it comes to the whole notion of being an observer, that is such a position that I wouldn't use that to describe my work, because being an observer, you are in a place of power, in which you are observing a people. And I don't believe that I was observing. I was having a relationship with people. It was, I was having an exchange with people, whoever they were. And I do believe in being a creative when it comes to, making a documentary. I can come into a scene, let's just say they are the harvesting scene. I can come into a scene. I can just decide to just be here, or I can move around and decide where I want to be. That entails creativity, because you need to look at, I'm looking at what resonates with this scene best, with what is happening in front of me. And so I am choosing, and by the act of choosing, I'm being creative. And so I do believe in creativity when it comes to documentary filmmaking as well.
When you make a choice, such as keeping the political oppression of the people in your film to be discovered or postponed in the film until almost 2/3 into the film, that we start realizing that this is an oppressed minority living in one particular region. How did that decision come about?
It is almost just as reflective of my own, with my own relationship that I had with people, because I started shooting in 2010. In 2010, there was tension, but the peaceful protests had not started yet. This did not come about until much later, probably 2014, 15. And so it was later on that came about. And that was one of the reasons that I decided, because in a way, at the beginning, I wanted to contextualize this leaf, or the story of the leaf per se, within its Muslim or Sufi context, right? And that's how I enter the film in a way, where these imams are talking to each other in that ceremony of chat that they're having together, and they are talking about. One of them says, it's the creation of God is amazing. A human being can see the outside, but are we able to tell what's inside? So in a way, that kind of sets off the story. And for me, what I was thinking is the same as if anyone were to go on a vacation and you were to look at this leaf and all the activity that surrounds it from a visitor's perspective, there is something that you will see, but you're not going to understand the deep implications or meanings that these rituals have for people. It's hard and it's very easy to judge. And I wanted to withhold that judgment because this is something that, especially when it comes to spirituality, it's something that is so ingrained, in the people, and in a way, what holds people through the day, especially going through so much, So, yeah.
Cat is also a very, very big part of daily life in other places, such as Yemen, for example, where there has been a lot of work in film and in literature, seeing cat as this ancient tradition, but also as a symbol for hopelessness in society today, of a need to escape through this act of chewing something that takes you away. The Sufi angle, of course, that you built so much on in your film, that you try to use as a general scaffolding, if I may say, through this story of the Mal Hayat, the water of eternal life that Elias is seeking in this mythology. And there is this phrase in the film that, of course, is impressive and it stays with one, where there is this discussion. So Khadr believes that we should get the water of eternal life for everybody, but then Elias is thinking maybe just for me. How can you tell me something about the place of such a statement in a film like this? How do you, what does this mean to you?
Khadr was the selfless one. He's the selfless one who is out there really looking and hoping to find this water for Azur Karnaini. And he ends up finding the water of eternal Ma'ul Hayat. He finds it first, and when he takes a sip, he attains eternal life. Where people in Harar actually do believe that Khadr is still with us, So Ilyas, he was a little bit selfish. He was thinking, well, maybe we can find it for people, but I actually want it for myself, So when he got there, there was the muddy water. And he became night, where Khadr not only attained eternal life, he also became a daylight, sunlight. And Ilyas became the darkness of night. And when Azur Karnaini got there, because he was so blinded by fear, he found nothing. Everything was dry. And so, and at that moment, he realized that why fear had entered him. Fear had entered him because he felt like he was old, he was near death, and he had not had either a wife or children, and he was afraid that people would forget about him. So his creator heard his cries and his prayers, and he said to console him as a consolation, like, well, yeah, you did not get eternal life because, well, you were a little bit selfish, but you can get this chat, and whoever chooses it from now on, they're going to be remembering you. You know, there was so many things that that I thought about, you know, when I heard this story for the first time. And well, first of all, I thought it was just one of those very perhaps obscure mythologies that only lived within the Sufi circles, you know. But I started to ask just random people, and it happened that everyone knew about the story. So it really it lives within the consciousness of people. Everybody has their own version, of course, but it's alive. So that was one thing that struck me. And another thing is the fact that it was something that people talk a lot about, how chat was something that was found because someone had pilgrimaged for it. Somebody had walked for it. Somebody made a certain did some work in order to find it, you know. So, I mean, there are all of these things that I feel that I couldn't help but think about the significance of Mol Hayat and eternal life, and thinking about of water, but also thinking about what that means in our contemporary times. What does this water mean today? What does water mean to the youth? What are we talking about when it comes to Mol Hayat? And a lot of these, young kids actually of Muhammad and his friends, they're thinking of. They were saying, "Oh, you know, our Mol Hayat is the Mediterranean." You know what I mean? That's what's up. And it was just. I mean, it's just sort of like astonishing for me. And I wanted to, I really felt that a lot of the times, you know, the mythologies of a place, of the fantasies are what truly, you know, make us. I really felt that it was something that I needed to bring into this film, to bring, you know, that not just the history, but just also the beauty of imagination, you know?
I love that. I need to ask the difficult question here because, you know, in Africa, the Arab region, in different parts of the world, of the global south, if one is to use this term, we have a tradition of being angry and mad at northerners when they come to our region and start doing their anthropological work by focusing on rituals. So they would go to Harar and start filming a wedding, and then they would be filming the Sufi Hadra or the Zar, and then they would be filming some folk music and the act of chewing the cat. You did all of these things. Now, I do not have the slightest feeling watching your film, I think at least 2 times by now, I do not have any feeling that you were exotic or you gave me a sense of like this kind of Northern or American tourism there. How did you think about that? Because you did everything that the tourist would do, but it's not about doing it or not doing it. It's about how you did it.
I feel like it's not just about how you did it. First of all, it has to do with what is at stake here. Who are these people to you? What is your relationship? It's about extractive nature of practices and not, you know? I think that that's the big difference. Because, you know, for me, to have any of either the amirs or Muhammad or anyone or the farmer here, I mean, these are, I'm thinking, you know, these are our fathers. These are our children. this is what is happening to our children at this moment, because these are children that are going away at a very young age, having to make those hard decisions. You know, I'm talking about, you know, the farmer that, yes, you know, at this point, there is a commodification of this plant, but the farmer cannot be the sole person to be held responsible about this. There are sociopolitical contexts within which this plant is commodified, you know? So again, it's easy because, well, for example, I would tell you that while I was, you know, shooting there, of course, I met some of the people that were coming, whether it is NGOs and so forth, that were incredibly mad at the farmer about, like, wow, you know, they're creating food scarcity and so on and so forth, you know. But then if they only knew the farmer, if they only knew that the farmer is not like this person that is getting rich, the farmer is barely able to now send the children to school, maybe buy a shoe, you know? So there are other places, there are other forces at stake here that are driving this. You know, why is the youth, you know, all of a sudden medicating like crazy? Why? So if we have to ask those questions, then let's ask the hard questions. Let's look at what is happening politically in the country. You know, let's look at the socio economic conditions under which people are living in. Let's look at this incredible oppression of the Oromo youth and the oppression of their voices, the thousands and thousands of people that are incarcerated, politically incarcerated, especially of the youth. All the students that held the 3-year peaceful protest while they were being killed by the thousands. And they sustained that, you know, courageous movement until the former prime minister resigned. So these are the conditions, truly, that need to be looked at.
Still, there is the choice, the choice of form that you took. You decided that you will go in a direction of, I sound negative now, I don't mean it this way, but I can't stop myself. That's who I am, Jessica. In a way, black and white, not afraid of using slow motion, ethereal music coming back and forth, so much ambience, so much focus on creating or manufacturing a sense of transcendence or a sense of hypnotic experience. That is the exact opposite of taking me to the physicality, the tangible reality of such harsh circumstances. So this paradox to me is your choice. This is what you chose to do. Slow motion, black, white, and add ethereal music on something that can actually be the subject of a demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I could, you know, bring the demonstration. I could bring the killings of the students and all of those horrific circumstances into the film. I felt that the film, I wanted it to be more about what remains. You know, after the fact, after this protesting and the killing and all of it, when the smoke dies down, what is the feeling that remains? And that is what you see with this very young men sitting under the tree and just speaking about the condition. That is what remains. And what remains is a youth with an incredible sense of a feeling violently suppressed, but disappointed because feeling that all of that, all of those risks that they took perhaps were did not bring the results that they wanted. And these are youth that understand that this condition has been going on for generations, and it's almost like a sober understanding that this fight is going to have to continue.
I believe that you have succeeded perfectly in putting me there in this thing that you're calling what remains, because this sense of they sometimes do feel melancholic as persons, but the melancholy is your own proposal for the film's mood in many moments. It's what you are telling me as an artist, as a filmmaker, that there is something here that is budding, that is still, that's under the ashes, and it might be coming out. Something here that is not static, that looks like boring at this moment, but it clearly has fire within that is coming at some moment in the future, and it will not come in slow motion. And in a way, I think it is something that you did brilliantly, and I'm very happy that I watched this film and that it is out there for the world to see. If I'm just to lighten up at the end, I want to ask you about this year, these past 2 years. Your film is, I think that if I watched this film in the beginning of the pandemic, Jessica, I would have said, wait on it. Don't show it until it is really a full physical experience in cinemas. Because this is a film that I can see how much hard work was put on the sound design and the sound mixing. I can see how much hard work was done on the image. And then we end up watching it, or you end up putting it in festivals where it will be seen only online, or the window for its theatrical release is, of course, very small in the past period. How was this experience to you, knowing the outcome of it is that your film actually survived it and came out quite successfully from a period that I would have never guessed? I would have thought this is a film that should be seen in cinema.
Wow. Well, yeah, thank you. I have to say, I heard from other people, well, that were kind of like withholding their films. You know, when the pandemic hit, it just really felt like it's so uncertain, you know. I didn't know if I was going to even survive until the end of next year. And for me, it was the right time. Everything was the right time. I have to say, in retrospect, I can again say that it was the right time. I did not feel like I needed to hold it. It was sad that I didn't get to meet any audiences for the most part of the year. You know, I didn't get to go to festivals, but and it was a very weird experience because, you know, at Sundance, for example, which was amazing, but you were told, oh, you know, your film is showing at Sundance and now it just premiered, right? And then you had a little, you know, Q&A, and then that's it. And then you don't know what's going on, you know, you have no idea what happened. So it was kind of like a strange, you know, experience. But that, of course, the pandemic was all a strange experience. So I didn't feel like I needed to withhold it. Of course, I would have loved to go to festivals. This would have been a beautiful opportunity to travel, perhaps, and to meet people. But this is the way it had to be, and given all, I think that this film, I'm very, very grateful for the journey that it has had, you know.
And I'm very grateful to you and happy we had this chat. I think the film needs to be seen and screened. It needs to be given the right platform. It needs to, the sound work is amazing. I think it deserves to be heard well. And your camera work, I think, is another side of you as an artist that I'm gonna be waiting for in the future again and again, Jessica. So congratulations, and yeah, best of luck. Stay strong, keep it up. Waiting for your next film.
Orwa, thank you so much. It's been really, really a pleasure. Thank you.